I'm Iris Muller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and a proud mom of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
And I'm Alma Schneider, a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mom of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising kids with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new. This is Two Moms No Fluff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Two Moms No Fluff. I'm Alma Schneider, and I'm here with my partner, Iris Miller. We want to welcome you. If you're new, a huge welcome. If you are a veteran of our podcast, we want to welcome you as well. We talk about all things related to raising kids with disabilities, and today we have, as always, a very, very interesting topic. I'll let Iris introduce it.
Yes, thank you again for all our listeners that are here with us in this long journey, time and time again, and also welcome for the new ones. And as Alma said, we have an interesting topic today. Today, we're going to discuss my kids' favorite holiday, and that is Halloween, people. And Halloween is very important because this is a holiday in which we don't just interact with our families, we usually interact with our whole community. So I want to invite people to share this episode with the broader audience, because this is something that is for the greater good. As more inclusive as we can make Halloween, more kids would end up at the end of the day being happy and satisfied instead of frustrated and embarrassed. So listen in and learn something new. Alma,
Yes.
Do you want to begin?
I will certainly be happy to begin. This was, of course, my favorite holiday, especially as a chubby little child where I got to eat candy all the time. I was very happy about this holiday. And I loved this holiday with my 2 older kids until my 3rd kid was born with a disability that was completely related to food. And Halloween turned into not as much of a nightmare as I thought it would be, but it is a holiday that, like many other tasks in our lives, we have to be extremely vigilant and, feel a little different from the rest of the population. So it can be very triggering for a lot of parents who have Prader-Willi syndrome, children with Prader-Willi syndrome, but also for parents who have children with allergies, who have diabetes, who have a lot of other issues, physical issues that Iris will talk about a little bit more. But for me, I'll start off. So Prader-Willi syndrome, I've talked about it in other episodes, but it is a syndrome where one of the main feature and the most dangerous feature is a desire to eat, especially things that are not good for you, carbohydrates and sugars, and the inability to feel sated. So Halloween, as you can imagine, for a parent of a child with Prader-Willi syndrome is very tough. Kids who have Prader-Willi syndrome tend to sneak food as well. So I have to be on my game big time while trick-or-treating. And fortunately, my son is more interested in the social aspect of trick-or-treating than the food, but he still is very interested in the food. So I have to watch to make sure that there's no sneaking of food, which is hard because, somebody can, sneak food very, very quickly and easily. But it's one of these holidays where, everybody says, oh, it's one day of the year they can eat candy. But as we all know, candy is ever present. It is ubiquitous in everyone's lives in, 2022. And it has become like not really a special treat anymore to eat a bunch of candy because kids eat candy all the time now, and they get it from their friends, they get it from play dates, they get it from all these places. So socially, it's also a little bit hard for people who have kids who should not be eating candy at all. It's hard because and this comes up a lot being a parent of a child with a disability, saying things, people thinking like, oh God, can she just take a break for one day and let her kid have fun? it's not one day. It creates a pattern for some kids where they really want it. Then the next day, if they can't cognitively grasp that it's a one day thing, why I had it yesterday, well, I want to eat the rest of the candy now. It causes there are so many repercussions to Halloween. And I'll stop there so Iris can start. But I have quite a bit more to say about Halloween, and we're going to be talking obviously about strategies to deal with the complex issues that come up from Halloween.
So I want to follow up with a to-do list item. And people, if you heard Alma's speech, I want to invite you all to include a teal-colored pumpkin. Put it outside your house to symbolize your next to-do list item, and that is to buy giveaways that are not food. If you have a teal-colored pumpkin, and don't get obsessed about the color, it can be light blue or turquoise, as long as you give a sign to the parents that your house is safe to visit with their child who has food allergies or type 1 diabetes or whatever it is that prevents them from eating candies. You can hand out little things like pencils, markers, small erasers, balloons, whatever you have that is sometimes very cheap, cheaper than candy, and you can give the kid something that is not a food item. You'll be making the holiday much happier and more inclusive to so many kids and so many families. So I wanted to invite people to think about that. And it's also healthier and more, I think, educational to get a pencil rather than a piece of candy. It's not healthy for any of our children, disabilities or not. So, Alma, I don't know if you want me to continue on with another item.
Okay, with your wisdom. Always ready to hear more from you, Iris.
So thank you. I'm paying Alma for the compliments, FYI. So basically, I think that when it comes to inclusion, we want to make this holiday physically accessible. And physically accessible means to have a handout, a giveaway that is not necessarily sugar, and also to make it physically accessible for kids to arrive at your door. And for a family like ours that uses a wheelchair, it's a challenge. A lot of homes have like 3 steps to the entry doorway where people are usually standing, or they have a table and they hand the candies over there. I want to invite you people to consider a wheelchair accessible entrance to your house. And I don't mean modifying your home. I just am considering or inviting you to consider using your garage as your place to hand out the candies. And this is because everybody naturally have a ramp to get into their garage. You can slide the wheelchair from the sidewalk into the pathway of the garage, and voila, you have a ramp to get into where the candy is given or other goodies. So this is something that was really, really great. There are advantages to the pandemic. And one of the things that happened in the pandemic is that people no longer wanted all the kids kind of coming to the front of their house, and they put tables outside near their garage, so they would be more in the open air and free from germs. So I really want to invite people to consider that this Halloween as well, and other Halloweens, and this makes it easier to access. And also sometimes narrow pathways, even if your house is maybe edge grade and it's not very hard to get to the front door in terms of the elevation, it can be very tricky in terms of the pathway. So please consider accessibility as you plan your candy giveaway.
Excellent. Or stickers or pencils or whatever giveaway.
Exactly.
Something that is very helpful that has been helpful for us is that for many years we have had a friend who had a party, not even an official party, but we hung out on her lawn, and we still do, with a fire pit out there, and we have, cider, healthier drinks, and maybe one kind of a dessert out there. And this is more for, not necessarily, but for when kids get a little bit older, but they're hanging out with their friends, and it's a party. And I say friends, I use the term loosely. They could just be other kids who are their age. But there isn't even necessarily a need for the trick-or-treating, because sometimes kids just want to be dressed in costumes and they want to have some kind of a festive activity. It doesn't necessarily have to mean trick or treating. So something like having a party outside or inside is one way to deal with the holiday. If you have concerns about your children trick or treating or eating candy or having, a meltdown when they go trick or treating because of a variety of issues, that can be a fun way to deal with Halloween. Baking fun things with your kids, making some kind of a family tradition on Halloween, either having other kids over or having it just be your family, but baking, something. It could even be bread shaped like ghosts, I don't know, some kind, or biscuits, I don't know, using some kind of a cookie cutter, or any kind, baking. I put a very hideous photograph on my Instagram the other day that Iris wasn't happy about, that I tried to put on the Two Moms No Fluff Instagram page, of something called feet loaf, where you shape a raw meatloaf into the shape of a foot and you put onion pieces on each toe, so it looks like hideous nails. So making dinner with feet loaf could be an option for maybe Iris will now let me put it on the Instagram. She was not happy with her partner because it was too hideous, but maybe for Halloween we'll put it on there. But there are lots of things. You can make a cake, and then just make sure that, if your child has food issues, you only have a tiny bit of it. A cake with, green frosting as a witch, and I can post something like that on my page because I have a great recipe for that. And there are just so many other ways to celebrate this holiday. So it's important to think out of the box. It doesn't have to be all or nothing where, we don't celebrate Halloween. We don't do that. Yes, kids want to be a part of, talking about Halloween, getting excited about Halloween, wearing the costumes, but it doesn't have to be the traditional Halloween going to everybody's house and getting candy. It can be other things.
So I want to go back to like the people hosting the children that come trick or treating, and to give them a few more pointers. And I think that one important thing is for people to know to talk to the child, even if the child is nonverbal, and even if you think that maybe the child does not understand you. I invite people to always err on the side of talking to the child and let the adult that is with the child intervene if the child cannot respond or does not understand what you're saying. Be respectful, talk to the child. Do not ask the parents about the child's diagnosis, never, ever in front of the child, and never, ever in a situation like that, because for many, many parents, this is a very serious and private topic. So another recommendation. And to always give kids options. And even let's say if you are handing out stickers, put 3 stickers in front of them, space them out also so you can see which one the child is gazing at, and let the child make a choice. And I think that a lot of times people are kind of embarrassed when they see that the child doesn't react in a way that they expect. So I recommend be patient, give the child time, and don't repeat the same question time and time again. Many times kids that have communication challenges, they know what they want to say, or they know which choice they want to make. It just takes them a long time to kind of organize their nervous system to come up with a response. So be patient. And please know that the choices is a very important part of this holiday. When you have a bowl of candy, you notice that each child has to choose and pick whichever one they're taking. So also please give that opportunity for kids with disabilities, the option of maybe even holding 2 items, one in each hand, and holding your hands far apart. Would make it easier for you to see which one they want, with maybe a way to do a nonverbal communication. And the final thing about that, I know that my kids, my son who's able-bodied is able to run from one neighbor to the other, all motivated to grab as much candy as he can possibly do. But my daughter with the wheelchair can usually maybe visit less than a quarter of the homes that he is able to do in one run, and that's optimistic. So I invite you, if you can, give them a choice, but also be generous and give the kid who has a disability, who's having a harder time access your house or accessing the candies or other giveaways that you have. Be generous, give them two. Trust me, you won't regret it. And when they come home, they'll have something that is maybe close to what other kids receive in that one evening. So that's my 2 cents about that.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go back to the families who have the kids again. It seems like we're in a little pattern here. Um, just because this is such a, I have to have so many strategies at home for our situation. Um, Something that I was very pleasantly surprised about, and I want everybody out there to remember, that even if your child has a tendency to want to eat candy and eat too much and uh, be a part of the holiday in that way, having to do with the candy, I was pleasantly surprised to see that my son, who is extremely food focused, really is more interested in the social aspect of the candy. And what I mean by that is something that my older kids did, and now my younger kids, is that they all get their candy at the end of their trick or treating, and they put it out on the floor. They could see how much candy they all have, and they trade. So my son is so interested. He is so excited because he's always so excluded from food, especially candy, outings and events that have food and candy. This is an opportunity for him to feel like everyone else and not feel excluded. And he trades it, and they all decide it's all in front of him. And again, I have to have some serious hypervigilance here to make sure that he's not sneaking it. But to my great surprise and pleasure, he really is focused on the trading and not on the eating in these instances, which is very unusual for someone with Prader-Willi syndrome. But he just has such a drive to be social and to be doing what other kids are doing. So they trade candy, and then two things happen after the trading of the candy. A few things happen. I let him have some of the candy and he can have one piece after dinner for a little while, for a week or two, just one piece. We also donate to organizations. I don't know why there are so many organizations to donate candy to people who are in military service, but there are lots of drop-offs to drop off candy. I don't know why people need so many Snickers bars and when they're out, but apparently it's something that they like to collect candy for. So that's another thing you can do with your candy. But also, my son loves, and your kids might love this too, giving out candy. So we finish our outings, or whether it's the party and a little bit of trick-or-treating. When we come home early enough so that people are still coming to our house for trick-or-treating. And my son likes nothing more than taking even his own candy. I pretend sometimes that I've run out of candy, and he's like, oh, they can use mine. Even though he has Prader-Willi syndrome, he gets so much joy out of giving out the candy that we put it in a bowl and he gives it out to kids who are still coming. So there are so many ways to have a great time and take advantage of this holiday, just like everyone else, and to feel good about it and feel like you're a part of it, not just stuffing candy in your face, which is kind of what I did as a kid. Also, we eat the candy that they hide, and I take out all my favorite things and I hide it, somewhere, and I just have a little bit left. And he's like, where did all the candy go? I'm like, oh, it's been going fast. You didn't have as much as you thought you did. So, you can play around with that kind of stuff too.
Yes, I think that we had a few educational games in the spirit of homeschooling, with making graphs by putting the candy bars, one on top of the other, and seeing which graph is higher and why, and then doing the trading game of buying candies from the kids, etc.
Oh, that's smart. Selling the candy. And to do that, I think that's a great idea. If you give me, 3/4 of your candy. I'll pay you for it, and you can buy something more meaningful with that. So great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so that being said, I wanted to invite people to choose kindness over candy in this holiday. And by that, I mean that we had I guess a few groups of friends, and due to some nutritional choices, their kids also were not allowed to eat the candy. It was just collectible item that they would sell to their parents at the end of the evening. And we all went trick-or-treating together. And within 2 houses, the kids kind of understood that my daughter is super slow, and they bolted and disappeared. And that was a very, very sad Halloween, because all the kids left and we were supposed to go in a group. And the only child that stayed was actually her brother, which we kind of had forced him also to stay with us and with her. And I think that especially for families like that, that the candy at the end of the day is not the prize. The prize was supposed to be money. Then I think that because they were selling the candy, they were trying to get more candy to get the money. I think people really do need to remember the bigger picture and what is more important in life in a situation like that. And so I want to invite parents of typical children to consider just, taking a neighbor who has a disability, taking a friend from class who has a disability, and help them interact and help them go out and meet other people and other neighbors and other kids and enjoy wearing their costume. And I think that the benefit would carry much longer and much farther than any amount of candy or other goodies that they can collect on that day. And it's a message for life. I think that it's interesting as a parent of a child with disability how easy it is for typical parents to think about inclusion, to think about the ramifications of their parenting choices and the actions of their children. We are very, very much how do you say, about immediate satisfaction. And we, in an age that you can order whatever you want from Amazon on Instacart and have it in your house in half an hour as an adult, we expect that our kids would have the same gratification or satisfaction right away, no matter what's going on in life. So this Halloween, I want to invite parents to think ahead of time and to think about who in your child's life doesn't have a friend to go trick-or-treating with. What would it mean if your child this holiday makes a social effort and lives a little bit outside of their normal kind of comfort zone and do something special like that? I think it is beautiful, and it would be a much more meaningful Halloween holiday. And if you are worried about the amount of candies that they would get, call me. I'll send you candies just for the good deed that your kid has done that holiday. Thank you.
Excellent. One more thing that I wanted to add was costumes. So it can be more festive if the parents are also wearing a costume and really focusing on the costume and making a costume or buying a costume that's fun for the kid that they've been really excited about. And something that we talk about in all or most of our episodes is, the social component that Iris just mentioned, but having to do with I have a child with a food issue, but not if somebody's going to have a party or a get together for Halloween, to not assume and that my son can't go or won't go because he has Prader-Willi syndrome. The general rule of thumb should always be invite them, tell the parent, invite the parent, so that, because sometimes I cannot bring my son to certain events, and if he found out that there was a party and he couldn't go, it would be much worse. But reach out to the parents and say, I'd love to invite so and so to the party, and then let the parent decide whether or not it will be appropriate. And that will probably include a lot of questions by the parent, like, will the food, like a question for me is, will there be like a buffet style food, or will you be giving set amounts of treats or dinner to the kids if there's a party. You know, if it's all out in all areas of the house, like in the living room, in the kitchen, bowls of junk food and stuff. Like, I couldn't go to an event like that because it would be too stressful for my son, but also for me to have to watch. So always plan to invite a child by, you know, telling the parent, again, not the kid necessarily, depending on the nature of the disability, but invite, you know, err on the side of inviting, not saying, oh, they won't want to come or they'll feel bad if I invite them because they won't be able to come. Don't make assumptions, because there's a lot of ways to include kids as long as we're supporting them appropriately.
I want to, like, I'm being mindful of the time. I want to also mention a proactive approach for parents of kids with disabilities. And I have never done that, but I know other families that have. And then the strategy is such that you would go down your street in advance before Halloween and let people know that my 5-year-old son would be knocking on your door in his Spider-Man costume and a green bag. He has type 1 diabetes. Please do not give him any candies. I am attaching to this note a pencil that you can hand to him when he knocks on your door. Please respect this request, because it's a medical kind of danger for my son to eat candies. So I know that some parents have done that and had great success with this. Parents told me in the past that people like took the pencil that they got and added to it like a pencil box and some other goodies, and that it was a really great success. If you're so inclined, I just wanted to share that strategy. It might work for your family. I wanted to also mention other things that are done in our neighborhood here in Midland, Michigan. Neighbors here boo each other, meaning that they knock on your door in the middle of the night, kind of before Halloween, and they leave a pumpkin bag or something filled with goodies before the holiday. And something like that is really great for kids that have a hard time leaving the house at all and going out in the holiday because of medical issues, etc. So if you are aware of a child or a family in your circle or community that cannot attend or participate in Halloween, I really recommend booing them in advance, or that specific kid in that specific family. That is super kind, and it brings the joy of Halloween to their door. So highly recommended.
Excellent. And you reminded me of one last thing that we did. And I think we only did it 1 year, but I think it's a great idea, if I do say so myself. And we did something on our block called reverse trick-or-treating, where a week or two after Halloween, we baked cookies and we put them in bags on our block, and we went to all the adults' houses and we knocked on the door and we said trick or treat, and we handed them treats, and they were like, what's going on here? We said it's reverse trick or treating. So that was a great way. The kids were really excited about that, and they did, you know, all they're doing is taking on Halloween, if you think about it, if they're trick or treating. So this is also a nice message, you know, for any kid, obviously, to reciprocate. So maybe we'll do that this year again. That was really fun. All right, that's all I have, I think, pretty much today. How about you, Iris?
I have two little other tips, if you actually,
yes, full of info. All right, let's hear it.
First of all, I wanted to give a mention to adults with developmental disabilities that are still deep inside think of Halloween as if they are still kids. Yes. And they also want to participate. Please don't frown on those adults when they come in a costume, knocking on your door, asking for candies. Let them also enjoy the holiday. Great Please point. Be welcoming and accepting of kids that misbehave in a sense like, oh, this child is grabbing so much candy. What is wrong with them? There is probably something that is wrong. Please be accepting, be compassionate, and understand that there's so many ways and times that the family needs to kind of control that child's behavior. Just go with the flow. Let them have fun that one day, and nothing bad would happen to you, just good, I promise. And then also kids that cannot tolerate costumes. If you've ever been with a child who has a sensory difficulty and cannot tolerate wearing something different than their usual cotton and no tags outfits that are specially purchased for that purpose on Halloween, you can understand that every house they come to, why don't you have a costume? Why aren't you dressed up, etc.? Please skip the questions, let them enjoy the holiday, pick up the I guess candy or goodies or whatever it is, and go with the flow. I think this is a holiday that really invites or gives us an opportunity to accept the diversity, both in costumes and in behaviors. And if the more we do so, more people would live at the end of the night happy and looking forward to yet another celebration next year. So thank you for listening. And Alma, as always, it's been a pleasure being here with you.
I have to add one more thing that all these memories of Halloween are coming up.
Go for it.
Where a little girl did say to me this was years ago when my hair first started going gray, and I said, "Oh, I remember you from down the block." I said, and she said, she looked at me and she goes, "Are you a grandma?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I just have
not
some
yet."
Yeah, but it was great. So even though some people might have behaviors they're acting out in front of you, they might diss you, and so you have to be kind even if they're going to diss you. So on that note, we hope to hear from you in the comments about strategies that you've employed for Halloween, your Halloween nightmares and successes, and we always love hearing those. So we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank